Example 2, consider reaction N2 plus 3H2 goes to 2NH3. Pause and check that's balanced. How many molecules of NH3 will be made from the reaction of 42 grams of N2? Well, again, the question is going to give you something and ask you something. What does this one give us? Tells us we're starting with 42 grams of N2. So that's grams. So we've got a gram box. I'll always start on the left, which means that we're starting with this many grams. And that defines now that the A side is N2. So everything on this side relates to N2. Now, what are we asked for? Molecules of NH3. Well, molecules are particles. So here's a particle box, but that's particles of N2. So that's no use to us. Here's another particle box that has not been assigned yet. So let's make that particle box associated with NH3. The N2 side we know about, the NH3 side we're asked about, and we can see where our starting point is, the grams of N2 right there. We can see our ending point, the molecules of NH3 there. Okay, so how do we get from one to the other? Well, first step, starting here, the only thing we can do with grams is convert it to moles. So in step 1, we go from grams of N2 to moles of N2. Once we got moles, now we can go over and bridge over to moles of NH3. So that's step 2 there, going from moles of N2 to moles of NH3. The only crossing point in our roadmap, the only bridge, is that moles part, right? And now once we got moles of NH3, we can get particles of NH3 in step 3 there. Okay? So step 1, grams to moles of N2. Step 2, moles of N2 to moles of NH3. Step 3, moles of NH3 to particles or molecules of NH3. Let's again pull out just the important part of the roadmap. Starting off here with 42 grams of N2. Okay, first step, going from grams to moles. We've done that a few times now, so I'm just going to whiz through it. Okay, the molar mass of N2 is 2 times 14 is 28, so it gives us 1.5 moles of N2, which is this box here. Crossing over, the thing we learned to do in the last video, moles of N2 to moles of NH3 in step 2. We use the ratio of the coefficients. So again, I say that B is NH3, so that means here's moles of NH3 and the coefficient of NH3 is 2. Moles of A, well, A is N2, right? So moles of N2 on the bottom, coefficient of N2 is 1. Pop all that in, including the fact we just calculated the moles of N2 is 1.5, and we get this, multiply it out. And now we know that 1.5 moles of N2 corresponds to 3 moles of NH3. And once we got the moles of NH3, we just turn that into the particles, the molecules of NH3, using particles is moles times 6.02 times 10 to the 23. And so we pop that in, and we get the final answer. That 42 grams of N2 will give us 1.81 times 10 to the 24 molecules of NH3. That was example 2.